Hersam Acorn Newspapers, publishers of the Greenwich Post, New Canaan Advertiser, the Darien Times, the Ridgefield Press, the Weston Forum, the Wilton Bulletin, the Reading Pilot, the Lewisboro Ledger, the Monroe Courier, the Eastern Courier, the Trumbull Times, Fairfield Sun, Shelton Herald, the Stratford Star, the Milford. Hersam Acorn Newspapers, publishers of the Greenwich Post, New Canaan Advertiser, the Darien Times, the Ridgefield Press, the Weston Forum, the Wilton Bulletin, the Reading Pilot, the Lewisboro Ledger, the Monroe Courier, the Eastern Courier, the Trumbull Times, Fairfield Sun, Shelton Herald, the Stratford Star, the Milford Mirror, and the Valley Gazette.
Hersam Acorn and HANradio.com. The leader in local news, sports, arts, and entertainment in southwestern Connecticut.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a radio announcer. I'm a high school football coach. And since I was old enough to stand on the side of a stream next to my dad, I've been an angler. I've fished with bait, lures, and flies. I've fished with spinning gear, fly rods, jigging poles, and tip-ups. I've stood on ice, waded rapids, and been tossed about the deck of a boat. And I want you to love fishing, be it freshwater or salt, heavy flows, high seas, or cutting through a foot of ice, as much as I do. No matter what the quarry, no matter the tactics, no matter the chosen tackle. Welcome to Yankee Fisherman on HANradio.com.
Welcome to Yankee Fisherman, presented by The Dock Shop on HANradio.com, streaming live on the Hersam Acorn Network. John Kovach, coming to you from Two Roads Brewing, where we've been all day. We did our coffee break here. We just did a great episode of Stir Crazy. We do Yankee Fisherman, and we'll have a special Radio Arts and Leisure Live. Joined right now by former co-worker Dottie Bateman. Dottie was there for the start of a fishing career the other night.
33 years they had, and same with me. I'm not hearing you on here.
So tell us where you were and how you ended up there.
Well, I was at the David Letterman show because a good friend and neighbor happens to work for CBS. She's an editor for 60 Minutes and she also knows the head of security. So that got us in the door. It got us in the door. It got us backstage. We had VIP passes all along and just got to see and do everything. It was great.
What was the atmosphere like in Letterman's studio?
A lot of the people, I realized, would never, it was the end of their job. It was their last days having that job. So there was some sadness, but, among the crew themselves. But for the most part, the atmosphere was pretty good. Everybody was happy. They all thought that it was, the ending of a great era, which it was. And he was fine. He was very, Dave
sure
Letterman himself. Yeah, he's great. He's great.
I haven't seen it yet. I recorded it. As funny as his other shows traditionally were?
I think so. Since he was on so late, I didn't get to see as many as most people. But he was enjoyable. He was himself. I didn't get the feeling that he was on edge or anything else. And, And Bill Murray was a little nuts, but...
He always is.
Yeah, that's to be expected.
He always is. Part of what Letterman is doing in his retirement is fly fishing. One of his gifts, I believe, from his son was a Tenkara rod, which is a style of fly fishing. Can we go to a break? Can we go? Let's just go to a break here, and we'll be right back and reset everything.
The long winter is finally astern. Bait is invading the harbors, coves, and inlets. Stripers, fluke, and porgies are on the move. In the streams and lakes, trout, smallmouth, largemouth, and walleye have moved out of hibernation. At the dock shop, it's all systems go. And now in 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, and their newest location at 609 Riverside Avenue in Westport. Bait, tackle, apparel, and of course, all the marine and nautical accessories that they're known for are ready for you at the dock shop. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport. Visit us at dockshop.com.
Alliance. We are an industry leader in coordinating transportation for large events such as corporate road shows, conferences, and special events. Our team of experts understands the dynamics and logistics of high-pressure situations and complex arrangements, all within a rapidly changing environment. Since 1999, we have added charter jets, event management, and personal protection to our range of services. Mention this ad for $25 off your next round-trip reservation. Alliance and you. Together, we can achieve the extraordinary. 855-546-6996 or alliancelimo.com.
It's Lots of Characters, specializing in children's birthday parties with your child's favorite characters. When you want to party hardy, when you need to celebrate, call us, we won't be late. We help create lasting memories for you and your child on their special day. Call us at 203-590-1791 or visit our website at lotsofcharacters.org for more information and to see our party packages. Lots of Characters, 203-590-1791 or online at lotsofcharacters.org.
Franco's Wine Merchants in New Canaan carries a large selection of Two Roads beers, including the Olfactory Pilsner, Road to Ruin Double IPA, Rye 95, and Little Haven IPA. You can find Franco's online at francoswine.com. And of course, come visit them in the store at 130 Elm Street in New Canaan. Call them, 203-966-9571. For the beers of Two Roads Brewing Company, it's Franco's Wine Merchants.
This is Sig Hansen from Deadliest Catch. You're listening to Yankee Fisherman on HANradio.com.
Welcome back to Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop on HANradio.com. John Kovach joined by Dottie Bateman. We're coming to you live from Two Roads Brewing in Stratford, right on the shore. Dottie was lucky enough to be there for David Letterman's final taping the other night. In an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, that was just shared on Facebook, actually, by our friends up at the American Museum of Fly Fishing in Vermont. He was talking to Jimmy Kimmel about his growing interest in fly fishing. I read in Rolling Stone that he got a Tenkara rod from his son as a retirement gift. So we've got a new and highly visible fly fisherman starting, getting started.
I didn't know. That's great. I didn't know that.
Now, you're at a very hot fishing area right where the Housatonic meets the Sound.
Exactly.
In Milford. What have you been seeing there in terms of the bunker coming in, the stripers, etc.?
Quite a bit, as a matter of fact. I live at Caswell Cove, so we have an area where a lot of the fishermen come out to the point and cast off from there. We don't see fly fishing, but we've seen a lot of bunker, and they're jumping in and out of the marina, quite a bit, as a matter of fact, that we've attracted bald eagles now. So we have a pair of bald eagles flying in. We have osprey flying in, and there's been bunker everywhere. So it's been pretty successful.
Very cool. And you've done some kayaking off of...
Yes. We pull out of the marina and we go up the river simply because of the way the tides work. It's kind of scary for me, so I go out with someone all the time. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's getting out there in the air and staying away from the speedboats. But it's a lot of fun up there. Being on the water itself, summer, winter, spring, fall, doesn't make any difference.
Now, you get a lot of fishing activity across the river from you because there's a private or a public boat launch there, correct?
Exactly. I think there's a boat. I think one of the ramps was closed it's on the Stratford, Milford line there somewhere. But we have a ramp there. But they just walk out to the point. They walk out to the point and they fish. They have chairs out there and, the lunch and you name it. And they're out there fishing like crazy, day and night.
That's okay. Night's good. Nighttime is good as long as they don't wake you up. What's it going to take to get you out?
Fishing?
Fishing.
Well, do I have to bait the hook?
I'll bait the hook for you. I don't want to watch you have to fight a Menhaden to the death. It'll be like watching somebody with a sturgeon or something.
If you bait the hook, I'll fish.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Okay,
we'll pick a time.
You got a deal.
We will pick a time.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh, then do.
All right.
I hopefully you will. I do hope you will. Yeah. And just while we have you here, is some news out of Milford today from the DEEP, and at the Charles Island closure that it's closed now till September for the nesting shorebirds.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they closed that. We'll talk more about that later in the later in the show.
Okay.
So we are going to take our second break early. When we come back, Jim Tursek's going to be here, and we're going to talk quite a bit about saltwater fishing in this area and beyond as we kick off summer. Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop, coming to you live from Two Roads Brewing in Stratford. We'll be right back. The long winter is finally astern. Bait is invading the harbors, coves, and inlets. Stripers, fluke, and porgies are on the move. In the streams and lakes, trout, smallmouth, largemouth, and walleye have moved out of hibernation. At the Dock Shop, it's all systems go. And now in two locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, and their newest location at 609 Riverside Avenue in Westport. Bait, tackle, apparel, and of course, all the marine and nautical accessories that they're known for are ready for you at the Dock Shop. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport. Visit us at dockshop.com.
Healthy, confident smiles begin at Stratford Orthodontics. Conveniently located on Main Street, we are Stratford's hometown orthodontist. We offer the latest in orthodontic technology, including Damon braces and Invisalign. We always accept new patients. Call today to schedule a complimentary consultation. 203-375-8332. Stratford Orthodontics, 2499 Main Street, Stratford. 203-375-8332. And online at stratfordsmile.com.
Ever wonder why a story becomes news? Find out each Friday on Behind the News on HANradio.com. We'll bring in the newsmakers from around Connecticut and the journalists who cover them. Who is making the news? What did they do? Where did it happen? When and how did that story unfold? Find out on Behind the News, hosted by Kate Chaplinsky, John Kovach, and myself, Josh Fisher. Fridays at noon on HAN Radio.
Now you can keep up with what's happening in Darien with the convenience of the Darien Times Online. Your choice. Print or digital subscription for just $45 a year. Or get the print and digital bundle for just $10 more, $55 a year. To subscribe to the Darien Times, go to hersamsecure.com/CIRC or call the circulation department at 203-894-3388. The Darien Times, now in print and online. Don't miss a single issue. Subscribe today.
Hersam Acorn and HANradio.com.
Welcome back to Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop. Now with locations in Darien and Westport. We had a great time doing the remote there, helping them open up their Westport location, 609 Riverside Avenue. Now we're doing our second Memorial Day kickoff here at Two Roads Brewing in Stratford. Joining us from just up the road a bit, Jim Turasek returning to the show. Jim, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Really excited that the summer's coming up. That a big season for you in terms of your fly fishing. What are we looking like this early season? Are we seeing good signs?
Fair.
Okay.
The fish are coming in. You know, we'll have a couple of good days and then they go. So it's just migratory schools.
Yeah. And we're not expecting the really big blitz until a few weeks, I guess, and then fall.
But the fall is the best
right.
time for bass around here. The blues will start coming in. Unfortunately, bass numbers are down in general.
Right, and we've gone to the reduced takes.
Right.
On that, which I think. Where did you come down on that? What did you think?
The problem with taking the 28 and overfish is you're killing the prime breeders.
Yeah.
Ichthyologists say that you should be able to take one under like 22 and then one over 45. That would leave all the prime breeders, and it would be better for the population in general. But there's a lot of people who complain about that.
And there were a lot of people pushing for the one at 32.
Right.
So
right.
It was an interesting and emotional debate.
Yes, yes.
Now, have you been out at all?
Almost every day.
Nice.
I fish a lot.
So, and how have you been doing?
It's been steady. Not a ton of fish, but some days we catch 20 fish, other days we work hard and catch one fish.
Fly fishing strictly?
That's all I do is fly fish.
That's what I thought. So, how about the weather? I mean, like, it's unseasonably cool now. Is that having any effect?
This is a normal New England spring.
That's true.
You know, this is a normal spring.
That is true.
Yeah, well, one thing it's made is I still got my fingerless wool gloves in the car.
Yeah, all my winter stuff is still in there.
Yes.
I keep finding fleeces in the car. Any trout fishing at all?
Oh, yes.
Any good?
It's been okay. The problem with most of the places, as soon as they're stocked, people go in and take them out. So there's not a lot of layover.
Yeah, they announce when they're stocking, which I understand why they do, but now with it on the internet, they announce it.
Sort of like shooting fish in a barrel. Yeah.
Get out and with both the and the Tenkara. That so.
And what fish
work through what you're going to use fly wise. So here it is. We're hitting a lot of, say schoolie bass. We're just at the early stages of the season here in late May, early June. What are we looking at for patterns?
What the fish are feeding on now are the grass shrimp and the glass shrimp, and they're feeding on the silver sides, who came in May 4th was the first. I have a bunch of bait traps stashed, so I could tell exactly what's coming in where.
Idea.
And May 5th, the silver sides and sand eels came on shore. So any pattern that would imitate those and the shrimp. I've I catch more fish on shrimp every year than I do on anything else.
Now, for the shrimp, are you doing it like a Klauser minnow, or is it its own
it's
entity?
my own design.
Plus, you've got your own shrimp anyway that you designed.
Right.
Do you have that with you here?
Yes.
You brought a number of flies here.
For perfect early season.
Oh, that's a great rig.
Is the shrimp on the back and the silver-side minnow imitation on the front. And then you cover both prey species. And
Now,
most fish take the shrimp over the silver side.
They work at different levels?
No.
No?
No, they're all about the same level.
Sinking or floating line?
Intermediate line.
Okay.
Well, depends on the water depth. But a short, tough leader to be able to turn over a fly with a dropper.
That is a hardy leader. What is that?
It's fluorocarbon, 30-pound fluorocarbon.
Mm-hmm.
And fish can't see fluorocarbon. So it doesn't matter. So that way it always turns over better. My leader is made up with a fluorocarbon shock tippet, some 12-pound hard mono with a bimini at each end, and then a 30-pound butt of Mason hard mono. So it's a fairly short, stiff leader that'll turn over a rock.
I was
going to
say that there's a lot of meat to that.
Yes.
How tough is that should you choose to build your own leaders, which you'd have to there? How tough is that to learn to assemble?
Not hard. The knot most people have trouble with is a bimini twist.
Yeah.
But you got to practice it. You know, I had gotten a job on a offshore boat when I was in college because the guy asked me, can you tie a bimini? And I tied up a bimini. And he looked at me and he said, I'll clean the boat when we come in and you're going to set up leaders. He said, I never saw anybody tie a bimini that fast.
Yeah, that's something that's lacking in my fly fishing and something I need to work on is all of the knots.
And they're very important to do them right.
Very important, and they can be very difficult, particularly in the elements, and it can be a great source of frustration, as I'm testament to, because there's a lot of times that I'm, watching fish rise and fumbling with a knot for 20 minutes or so. By the time you get it on, you're done.
One excellent way to practice your knot tying is use something heavier like parachute cord and sit there and tie 20 of them. And by using something heavy like parachute cord, you're seeing the mechanics of the knot. So when you go to something you could hardly see, you know what to do by feel.
That is a great idea.
Because people don't practice knot tying.
No, we don't practice knots.
Yeah.
We don't practice fly tying.
Right.
You just sit there. We don't practice casting.
Nope.
Which is a huge shortcoming, I think. And I'm as guilty as anybody. All right, I've got the time. I'm going out fishing, and then my casts are bad. Then I get frustrated, and then we go on there. Where really I could go out in the backyard or to the school fields nearby or wherever.
Right.
And just practice casting and see what you're doing and break it down.
Well, it's more important feel what you're doing.
Yes.
I rather teach people how to fly cast in the dark than in daylight.
Really?
Because in the dark they do it by feel, which is how you're supposed to do it.
That is true.
And then, a friend of mine always laughs. He calls it my zip, zip, bang. I do one flick to get half the head out. The forward cast gets the rest of the head out. And then it's just a double haul and 85 feet.
So you're not one of those guys that's 5 or 6 or 7 false casts trying to set yourself up.
I don't look like an orchestra conductor trying to fend off a bunch of bees.
How much of that is wasted energy and wasted motion?
Oh, it's a ton of wasted energy. That's all wasted energy. If you apply... I once had a professor from Yale who wanted to learn fly fishing. And come to find out from talking with him, he was a physics professor.
Oh.
And after he was struggling with fly casting, I told him, I said, apply the physics. This is just a matter of physics. And he stopped for a second, and then he launched, and he lost me real quick of talking about, impulses and all this. And he added 25 feet to his cast.
But that's it. It's just thinking about how things work.
Right.
And it's that pause at the end. It's that pause at the top of the stroke
to let your line go back so that it will start to load the rod so you don't have to try to overpower it.
And that's why you need to set the time to practice away from the stream, because I know, and again, telling stories and incriminating myself here, but you're out fishing, you're trying to do, oh my God, they're rising over there. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to short that back cast as much as I can.
Right.
And
right.
end up with a,
Right.
wind knot that looks like a tumbleweed
Right.
and
Right.
try to
Right.
figure out
And-
what to do with
And
that.
the problem with wind knots is you put one in 15-pound test, you get a small fish hits, it pops.
Yep.
So
They go bad.
Yeah,
real
they
quick,
go
and
bad
I've
real
spent
quick.
a lot of time on them. So what else now? What would be the next as it warms up as we get into mid-June?
as it warms up and the bluefish start coming around, a silver side pattern, but done out of just mylar and a hard plastic underbody. It keeps the bluefish from chewing it up.
And you're on a wire
and it's
leader
on
there?
a wire leader, a hard wire leader.
How heavy is that wire?
That's about 30-pound hard wire. It's a number 8 hard wire. I prefer the hard wire because, one, it stands up a lot better. You get 2 fish on a plastic-coated leader and it's shot.
Right.
That steel, it's good till the fly comes apart.
Right. And what are you doing to harden the head?
Crazy glue.
That's it?
That's it. Crazy.
Because there are a number of products out there to do it, and I used to dip it in the jar for that.
Right.
There's a number of things out there. Crazy glue in and of itself will
That one
get
I
the
use
job
crazy glue. The silver sides I use Aqua Seal.
Any reason you go a different route from one to the other?
Because that fly is being chewed on by bluefish, and they're not too picky about action. This, it's mostly striped bass. They bite something. If it isn't a little softer, they'll spit it. Blues don't care.
Blues don't care.
They
They will.
don't care.
They gorge until they can't gorge anymore, and then make room to.
Then they bite the
gorge some
bluefish
more.
next to them.
Right.
Another thing this time of year,
And that's just a thing of beauty.
are the
I
herring.
love those.
Oh, this was a design I did years ago because most big fly patterns are virtually uncastable.
Yeah.
Or when you pull them through the water, they collapse. This has a mono loop built into it, which keeps the fly spread.
And you've tied this almost streamer-like in a
Yes.
batch, a batch, a batch, a batch, a batch, a
Right.
batch, a batch. And that's how you're getting the color mix. And you're just tying that straight. You're not tying that and pulling it back?
No,
you
you
just apply it straight to the back?
Tie it straight to the shank. Then you put the mono loop and you glue it between the loops.
Oh, I see.
And it keeps a minimum of material to present a maximum cross-section.
And this weighs nothing, and it's probably 6 inches long and
Right.
2 inches thick. And there's a lot of depth there. And you can see it's also going to have a ton of action.
Oh, it's super. And then for the big bunkers, which are actually pretty thick this year, but that's the same pattern.
Just
a
larger.
larger to imitate the big bunkers.
Same size hook, or do you go to a bigger hook there?
Slightly bigger hook.
And the red in the mono loops, are you coloring those?
Yeah,
What do you
magic
get?
marker.
Just a marker?
Magic marker.
That's fantastic. And those are all subs. How deep do you get with those?
It
Or
depends
can you
on the
get?
prey species. If I'm fishing shallower water, I'll use an intermediate and just count down. If I'm in 6-8 feet of water, I'll use a medium full sinking line. And if I'm in real deep water, I'll put on like a 400 grain shooting head and just, you can get down 25 feet that way.
Very quick.
Yes, very, very quick.
So what do you use, an 8-weight, 10-weight?
I like a 9-weight.
9.
If you master your fly casting, anything you could throw on a 10, you could throw on a 9. And because it's lighter, it lasts long. You'll last longer.
That is true.
And the problem you run into with an 8 is you get any kind of wind, it just knocks it down, and you can't turn over the bigger flies.
Yeah, that's...
Something bigger like when the big bass start, something like this.
And that is a big streamer.
Which is a big eel imitation.
Now that's rabbit strip there, or just dubbing?
just rabbit for the the pectoral fins.
And then a little olive, it looks like.
Yeah, black, olive, and the cream for the belly.
And a little bit of flash in there.
Right, just give it some light.
Kinky fiber? Or something
yeah,
thereof?
it's crystal flash.
Crystal flash, yeah. There's a hollowness to this fly. Is
Yes.
that by design?
It's by design. It's so that most flies are designed that the material is tied on at the hook.
Right.
So when you cast it, they get tangled. It gets tangled around the hook, it gets tangled around the leader, and it's pretty much good for one cast. By forming this, I do it over a dowel, it changes the point to there.
And you stiffen...
So it completely eliminates any hang-ups and wraps.
And you stiffen it with the dowel?
Well,
still there?
actually what I do is I lay the material over an oval dowel, put mono around it, actually fluorocarbon, and then use Aquaseal to fluorocarbon the two rings.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it allows you to get, again, a big cross-section, that perfect eel cross-section with a minimum amount of material, because the whole center is just air.
And the size, it is very close, and it does have that profile that you're going to find in an eel, and
exactly.
we all know that that's candy to a striper.
I've spent a lot of time underwater studying all the prey species I imitated, so it...
Right, now you're a diver, as we've talked about.
I've spent all kinds of time underwater studying both freshwater prey species and the saltwater ones.
Is that something that would help a lot of fishermen if they were able to do that and see
definitely.
what goes on there?
Even just snorkeling. Because, let's be honest, the vast majority of fishermen buy flies or choose fly patterns depending on a magazine article or an ad.
Right.
That monoloop bunker I have there was an article written about that a few years ago. And it was a year that there were no bunkers in Long Island Sound. Well, I probably saw 15 guys fishing it. Killer fly. I invented it. I wasn't fishing it because there were no bunkers around.
Well, that's got to look at what's going on around you, and you realize that there's a... So, that's just...
And the other would be a immature bunker fly or a very small herring.
And there's a lot of flash to that. It looks like you use a lot more flash material with that.
Yes.
They're dull. Some of your other ones are duller, a little more subdued. I want to almost say realistic. I don't know if I'm right.
Yes.
In the colors, whereas that one is just pure flash.
Because any of the fish in the families of bunkers, herrings, they've got opaque scales, and they just shine. So you're not in any kind of fish with a very high fat content. You can't see through them. All you see is flash on the surface.
Okay.
So they're made to be flashier. For instance, the silverside pattern or the sand eel is actually made. Now, when you look at a sand eel or silverside underwater, you see an opaque skull, an opaque intestinal cavity, and everything else is sort of translucent, which is why there's Aquaseal up here and back here, so it presents that exact same silhouette that fish key in on and have keyed in on for thousands of years. You know, they're a little harder to tie than some of the other patterns, but I'm more interested in catching fish. So
how long would that take to tie and work? You've got to let the Aquaseal set.
I could do it in, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And you put the Aquaseal on and you just let it cure overnight.
Right.
So, but a lot of the patterns, the shrimp flies, I could tie fairly quickly. That's just all dubbing. But that's if you practiced your dubbing and you're used to reel. It's made out of Angora goat, so it's a very tough dubbing. And But you tie a couple thousand of them and they get easy.
Right. Well, you've tied a couple thousand of them. The flatfish intrigued me. I liked that pattern because it's different the way it lays on the hook. Similar to, say, how a crab pattern would.
Yeah, it's made to lay flat on the bottom. And the reason for the little mono loop, it makes it weed proof. And it also bounces it off the bottom. A lot of times striped bass will come in at tidal estuaries in the fall to feed on the baby flatfish who are still there.
Right.
Because things like sand eels and silver sides migrate offshore.
Correct.
So, they're going to eat what's left.
So that would almost be a late, which surprises me. I would think that would be a spring pattern, but you're saying that's more of a fall pattern.
This time of year, the immature flatfish are only 1/4 inch long.
Right.
So nothing's really feeding on them that heavily. But towards fall, when they get to be 2-4 inches,
right.
that's a good meal.
Right.
And the last is just for bluefish, which is strictly flash. It's done over foam.
Make a lot of noise, move a lot of water.
And it has a hole in the center, so it spits water all over the place, makes a lot of noise.
Now, you hollow that out. Now, a lot of the poppers have like a scoop there.
Right.
Do you use those, or you just
No,
use
that
this
actually
to make the
makes
splash?
more noise.
Really?
Because what happens is it catches air in there. So every time you yank it, it burps air out the back, making noise. And it throws water because the water goes through the hole.
So you're getting an acceleration. You're moving a lot more water.
And it's also a lot easier to cast because it's half the wind resistance.
Probably a lot easier to strip, too, because a lot of your action on a popper or similar gurgler is you fighting the water.
Right.
You fighting the surface tension that's causing the splash, whereas it's the fly passing through the water that is giving it. So I can see that saving a lot on your stripping.
Yes. Right, it creates a lot of commotion.
Very cool. And just some great stuff.
And that's a very, very easy tie. It's actually a mylar ribbon that's just tied around the body with, it's same as that bluefish silver side. It's a plastic body, and then you just wrap this ribbon over it.
You're doing a lot then that's almost like tying a tube fly where you're using a jig to set the material.
Right.
And then work around it and leave, say, a hollow or a cavity.
Right. Like the eel fly, and then along the same lines, just using a bigger piece of wood, I'll do like big mackerel. If I'm fishing, out in the ocean more, further north more, you could tie a foot-long mackerel like that and still cast it on a 9-weight. Because when you bundle all the material together, it's one tiny bundle. But by doing it the way I tie them, you're spreading it all out to give the effect of a much bigger bait.
Now, speaking of spreading it all out, you've got one here I've never seen before. And I know I'm having my own internal debate on the hot thing in bass fishing are these umbrella rigs where you're throwing like 5 bait in a row.
Right.
Similar to the teasers that you've seen in the way offshore fishing for some time.
Right.
But now what we've got here is you've basically tied a spreader.
Because what I saw one day was when there were all these inch, half-inch to 1.25 inch peanut bunker. The fish aren't feeding on them one at a time. They're sort of filter feeding them.
It's popcorn.
They open their mouth, they swim through the school. And so I wanted to try one. And I made one. I caught a couple of fish on them. The time and aggravation that goes into tying these.
That was my next question.
I don't like to throw them in the water if I know there's any obstructions or, yes, because you have to literally tie each one of these small ones separately, then put the whole thing together.
And you're tying those directly on a strand of mono.
Right. It's actually fluorocarbon, so it all disappears when it's in the water. Yes, you're tying it on separate ones and then using the same construction as I do on the monoloop bunker.
Right.
It keeps them apart and it creates the look of a whole school of little fish.
That's fantastic. So in theory, you could sit there with 20 feet of fluoro, just tie, and then just cut them to length as you need.
Right.
Is that how you?
No, I've probably only tied about 5 of these, and
be about the end of it for me.
And 3 of them are behind glass in people's collections. They wouldn't want to throw them in the water.
Yeah, I could see it, because you could see that as a work of art. It actually reminds me of a dream catcher. I mean, well, all flies are works of art.
Right.
I think any fly, even the ones that you might not do right, I tie enough that, hey, I never throw them out, because you never know what they're going to key in on that day.
Right.
And if they're keying in on, say, a cripple, then throw the one that doesn't look like
that looks injured.
Yeah, the one that you don't want to put in a magazine because it
right.
looks awful, because that might be what they're after that day.
Exactly. Oh, and then just for after dark, just a large pattern that gives a silhouette from the top and the bottom of a fish. And
that's pure silhouette there.
And that's pure silhouette, because at night you can't see.
I was going to say, so dark. Would you go a dark fly at night?
Always. Most of my night fishing is with this single pattern, all in black. I've tied some silver sides in like purple and black to get the 2 shades. But at night, once you get more than a foot underwater, you can't see anything.
Dark. Small mouth back.
Yes.
Used it for that?
Oh, I tie these in freshwater size and saltwater size.
Now, what size is that? What size hook?
This is a 2.0 hook. And
didn't look that big. Wow.
Yeah, it's a 2.0, and about a hand length.
Weighted, not unweighted?
Just very lightly weighted, just so, because if you don't weight a fly, usually, if there's any kind of tidal rip, it's going to get pulled up to the top way too fast.
Yeah.
So I usually add, like on the silver sides, I put a piece of cut lead to help shape that underbody. These, I just wrap some lead around the hook shank. It just something to help get it down and keep it down.
Now, when you tied the freshwater fly, if I remember right, you did a bead head on that?
Yes.
But these, I don't, and there are a lot of products out now. You have your bigger beads for saltwater flies. You have a lot of weighted head products now, too.
Right.
You use those at all? Or?
No, because those give a jig effect in the water. A real silver side doesn't dive nose first into the bottom.
Okay.
He settles down, which is why, the weight on these is from back here to up here.
So you're distributing
so
the weight.
The fly settles this way, not this way. That's a dead fish.
And that's what you have to think about, is those little subtleties
yes.
cost a lot of guys a lot of fish, because you're all right, I've got a bead on this, or I've got a sinking tip on this. And if they're doing this dive and that's not what they're used to seeing, they know something's wrong.
They can pick it up as a fake.
Yeah, very quickly.
And how many times... I had a case this year of I was catching all the stripers on the shrimp dropper.
Okay.
And some guy came walking up to me. I had released a fish, and he said, "What are you getting them on?" And I said, "This." And I held up the shrimp fly. And he actually got aggravated and said, "Well, if you don't want to show me what you're using, fine." And he walked away, because people don't realize how many shrimp are around here.
They don't think about it. There's so much going on that you don't see.
Exactly.
That's why the flatfish fly, I first thought it was a crab, to be honest, but that makes so much sense. But times I've been at Penfield Beach and, seen flatfish just take off of,
Right.
a foot from where you just stepped.
And then you do get occasionally fish will be feeding on crabs.
Is that seasonal?
Yes. And this is the same fly I tie for a crayfish imitation for for freshwater bass. And, tie them in assorted colors for the assorted sizes and colors of the crabs. When the fish will really key in on crabs is during the spawns, because they do mass spawning, so you will get a lot of crabs drifting.
Okay.
Fortunately, where unless you can really spot a fish and sight fish to him, for the most part, these fish are just opening their mouths and swimming through. And if you do that, it's tough to catch them. We've watched fish feeding in half-inch long bunkers where they literally are just, what you do, 1,000 live ones.
Just where you're just taking the chance on being the one who buys the right scratch-off ticket.
Pretty much.
And your fly lands in the midst of the right mound of bait.
Right. Usually what I'll try to do is watch for the swirls or the fish feeding, and then try to get it right in front of their nose and sort of like salmon fishing.
But even stripping there, you're not going to engender a strike.
Not usually. Not unless somebody bumps into it.
No. All right, we're going to take a break. Come right back, wrap things up, turn it over to Radio Arts and Leisure. Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop. Jim Tursek with us. Coming to you live from Two Roads Brewing in Stratford. We'll be right back.
The long winter is finally astern. Bait is invading the harbors, coves, and inlets. Stripers, fluke, and porgies are on the move. In the streams and lakes, trout, smallmouth, Dock Shop, it's go. 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, and their newest location at 609 Riverside Avenue in West Bait. All the marine and nautical accessories that they're known for are ready for you at the Dock Shop. Boater, fisherman, visit us at dockshop.com.
Merchants in New Canaan carries a large selection of Two Roads beers, including the Olfactory Pilsner, Road to Ruin Double IPA, Rye 95, Franco's online at francoswine.com, and of course, come visit them in the store at 130 Elm Street in New Canaan. Call them 203-966-9571. For the beers of Two Roads Brewing Company, it's wine merchant. Now you can keep with what's happening in Darien with the convenience of the Darien Times Online. Your choice. Print or digital subscription for just $45 a year. Or get the print and digital bundle for just $10 more, $55 a year. To subscribe to the Darien Times, go to hersamsecure.com/CIRC or call the circulation department at 203-894-3388. The Darien Times, now in print and online. Don't miss a single issue. Subscribe today.
Does advertising on HANradio.com work? Just ask Coastal Orthopedics. They ran spots with us and to their care center. To advertise on HANradio.com, call 203-417-5199 and ask for Marianne Hersam.
Hersam Acorn and HANradio.com.
Welcome back to Yankee Fisherman, presented by the Dock Shop on HANradio.com. John Kovach coming to you live from Two Roads Brewing in Stratford. We've been talking with Jim Tursek about saltwater fly fishing. He brought along some great stuff, some really unique stuff, the school fly. That you've got a rig with a dropper that you're using for saltwater, so commonly seen with trout fishing.
Right, always used in trout fishing.
Always used with trout fishing, but that's the first I've really seen it saltwater. The hollowed out popper is just phenomenal. I mean, just great ideas there that just show what knowledge of what fish will do, which you've gained as a diver.
Well, it's that and spending thousands of hours on the water.
Yes.
Of using a regular popper And, when I would design flies, I will go with somebody and I'll look at them underwater, and then, I'll have them throw them to me underwater so I could see what they look like, and then I want to look at them from on top. Every fly design was designed around the prey species,
right?
Not just as a general pattern. And because it's, especially in saltwater fish don't really live anywhere. The only reason a saltwater fish is where he is because his prey species is there. So if you know the prey species, you'll be able to figure out which one is there and more efficiently catch fish.
Now, do you fish more from shore or do you go out on the boat?
No, I fish from shore. I had a boat a few years back, and I want to fish. I don't want to play with a boat. I don't want to have to clean it. I don't want to have to deal with it. And if you really know the prey species and know their habits, a lot of the prey species spend their time on shore, tidal estuaries, creeks. So if you spend your time there, the bait fish are there, the predatory fish are there.
And a lot, too, I would imagine, is spending that time at the shore, seeing what's going on around you.
Exactly.
Watching, not thinking about what new rod you're going to get, but watching what's happening in the water next to you.
Exactly.
Now, if you do fish on shore, just a note to everybody, and this was announced by the DEEP today, Charles Island in Milford and Duck Island in Westbrook closed to the public now through September 9th. That is to prevent disturbances to nesting birds. Both islands have been designated by the DEEP as natural area preserves, primarily due to their importance as nesting habitats for state-listed birds, including snowy egrets, great egrets, which is a state-threatened species, glossy ibis, little blue herons, which is also a special concern. They have also been designated important bird areas, those islands, by Audubon, Connecticut. And DEEP is also asking beachcombers, sunbathers, and boaters along the Connecticut shoreline to respect the fencing and yellow signs warning of piping plover and least turn nesting sites. The piping plover, a small sandy-colored shorebird about the size of a sparrow, is a threatened species under the Federal Endangered Species Act, as well as a state-threatened species in Connecticut. The small gull-like least tern, which nests in colonies in the same beach habitat as the plover, is also a state-threatened species. So they will put up some rope, they'll put up signs, they'll put up netting. Stay out of those areas. Avoid those areas if you're out there. Respect the area that you're around, and let's make it that we can still navigate our way through those spots and get to the water and fish. And if you're down there working from the shore, casting from if you take it in, carry it out. We're just seeing over and over again on the internet people leaving their trash, people talking about what they're picking up when they're out there, either at the trout stream or on the shore. If you carry it in, you can carry it out. Don't wait for others to pick it up for you, because what you're going to end up is closing off the fishery. I want to thank Jim Turasek for joining us here today down at Two Roads. Thank Dottie Bateman for stopping by. We will be back next week, and then we'll be going next weekend up to the TU Northeast Regional in Providence. Thanks for watching Yankee Fisherman on HANradio.com, presented by the Dock Shop. Tight Lines.
I'm going fishing, mama's going fishing, and the baby going fishing too.
Hersam Acorn and HANradio.com. The leader in local news, sports, arts, and entertainment in southwestern Connecticut.
Yankee Fisherman is presented by the Dock Shop. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien. Visit us at dockshop.com.
Want to get